We are live here on a Monday evening. It is January 29th, 2024. This is the Big CeeJ Sports Podcast. I am CJ Pronk. Thanks so much for those that are tuning in live or that are watching this on repeat. Please, if you have not done so, make sure to like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Help the channel grow so that we can improve and make this thing continuously better. It was an awesome championship weekend in the NFL. We now know who will be playing in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. Two excellent football games decided by one score or less. Pretty much everything you could hope for from a championship weekend. It started off with the Kansas City Chiefs going into Baltimore, facing the number one seed Baltimore Ravens with likely MVP Lamar Jackson at the helm, trying to get the monkey off his back and have an excellent playoff performance. But the Chiefs are just like Thanos, and they are inevitable. They walk into M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, and they pick up the win 17-10. Patrick Mahomes played an incredible game, completes his first 11 passes, ends the day 30 for 39, 241, and a touchdown. That touchdown to Travis Kelce on the first drive. And I tell you what, that first drive of the game, them going right down the field with absolute ease to score a touchdown on the first drive, and Mahomes finds Kelce down the right side. To me, the first thing that it made me think of was Tom Brady to Rob Gronkowski. I mean, it was that type of a connection, and it's that type of greatness that we saw from Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Kelce finishes the day with 11 catches for 116 and that touchdown, and he was fantastic. But Patrick Mahomes goes in, plays an incredible game. I'm going to go out and say I think at this point, you can start to put Patrick Mahomes at the level of Tom Brady. I know that Tom Brady still has the Super Bowls, and until Mahomes gets there, obviously you'll still have an argument that it's Brady. But, man, Mahomes is incredible. And he's the closest thing that we've seen to Brady, in my personal opinion. The thing is, too, about Patrick Mahomes is Tom Brady could not run around the way that Patrick Mahomes does and make plays. Which is something that we expected Lamar Jackson to do, speaking of running around making plays. And there were a couple flashes early in the game of him making pretty awesome plays, right? He has a huge first down run on a 4th and short over on the right side early in the game that gives them a first down. He has the awesome play where he catches the deflected pass himself and gets 13 yards and a first down. He had the play where he ran around, avoided a sack, throws it down the field to Zay Flowers for a touchdown. Those were the good parts of Lamar this weekend. But unfortunately, there's also the bad. There's the sack fumble where Lamar, as he did way too many times in this game, just held on to the ball far too long. Looked very indecisive. For some reason, did not want to use his legs nearly as many times as he should have. I think Lamar wants to prove so bad that he can be a pocket passer that I think sometimes he forgets how incredibly dynamic he is with his legs and how much of a weapon he can be. To me, it just looks like he was pressing. It just, to me, looks like he was thinking way too much out there. I don't know if the moment was too big for him or not, but, I mean, it certainly, unfortunately, throughout his career in the playoffs has proved to be that way. You look at his numbers in the playoffs, and I'll just kind of quickly share my screen with you guys with this here, this tweet that I put out about Lamar. Let me get to the right screen here. Here we go. Now, this is on my Twitter at Big CeeJ Sports. Make sure to give me a follow if you have not done so. Vince says, as Stephen A. Smith said, choke job. Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate to see Lamar do that. I mean, is that awesome as he was all regular season? But I mean, you look at these playoff numbers for Lamar Jackson in his career. He now falls to 2-4 in the playoffs. Has been the 1 seed twice and not been able to get to the Super Bowl. 6 touchdown passes to 6 interceptions and just a 59% completion percentage. Quarterback rating of just 76. You look at rushing stats, obviously the yards. I mean, that's great. You know, in 6 games, 516 rush yards and the 3 touchdowns, but 6 fumbles is bad. And it's really unfortunate because a guy like, I mean, I love Lamar Jackson. He's just so fun to watch. And so to see him struggle the way that he has throughout his career in the playoffs is really unfortunate. And sadly for him, that's just going to be the narrative of his career until he proves otherwise. But again, the Kansas City Chiefs advancing to the Super Bowl. They will represent the AFC for the 4th time in the last 5 seasons. Patrick Mahomes looking for his 3rd Super Bowl championship and the repeat after winning it last year. And what a performance, man. I Patrick Mahomes, it's like people continue to doubt the Kansas City Chiefs, and it is just mind-boggling to me how they can be an underdog. And even looking now, I mean, we'll obviously get to the NFC Championship, you know, here in just a moment, but you look at the opening odds to the Super Bowl, and the San Francisco 49ers, who are going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, opened up as 2-point favorites, some places 2.5, which is just crazy to me. I understand the 49ers have been impressive, but why do people continue to bet against Patrick Mahomes? When you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes on your team, you're going to be in every game, whether the team around you is as talented as your opponent or not. And for some reason, the media, for some reason, sports books continue to doubt Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs team. The thing about this Kansas City team, too, is this is the best defense that they've ever had in the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era. I mean, it's. I don't even think it's really all that close. They're just totally dominant in basically all phases. L'Jarius Sneed had that huge punch out when Zay Flowers looked like he had a sure touchdown that would have cut the game to 1 score late in the game. You had, I mean, McDuffie was all over the field. Chris Jones is obviously one of the best interior defensive linemen that we've seen in the last decade. You have just talent all over the field on that defense. And that's the difference with this Chiefs team than any other Chiefs team from the past, is that talented defense that they do have. But again, Kansas City able to get a 17-10 win over Baltimore. More disappointment for the Baltimore Ravens. And what's next for them, we'll have to see. Obviously, Lamar just gets a huge extension, and you know, there's no thoughts, obviously, on moving off of Lamar Jackson. But something's got to be tweaked on that team for them to start to have success in the playoffs. We move on to the NFC. In a game where the Detroit Lions were up 24-7 at halftime, looked to be in complete control of the game. It looked like Detroit was going to its first Super Bowl in the history of its franchise. They were running the ball all over the San Francisco 49er defense. And then the third quarter comes. And oh man, did that game change in a hurry. Like in an instant, that thing changes. The 49ers come out in the second half. They score 17 points in the third quarter. They tie the game up. It's tied going to the fourth quarter at 24. And I tweeted out a poll on Twitter. And when it was 24-24, it just felt like San Francisco had all the momentum. And so I asked, is the moment too big for the Lions, or can they win this thing? And 90% of the people that responded to the poll said it was over. And unfortunately, I mean, I agreed with them. At that point in the game, San Francisco was in total control. And they end up getting the win 34-31. The Lions do score a late touchdown to get the backdoor cover, which I'm sure made a lot of people happy. But the San Francisco 49ers are back in the Super Bowl. It'll be a rematch of Super Bowl 54, where we had the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I will say this as well about this game. Like I said, the Lions were in complete control of this thing. It's 24-7 at halftime. I was just flabbergasted at the fact that the Lions were doing basically whatever they wanted to against that 49er team. And man, as much as I love Dan Campbell, I think it's hard to not root for that man. As much as I like Dan Campbell, he made two massive mistakes in the second half of that game. In two key spots where they were in field goal range, he chose to go for it both times, and they don't get either one of those. Now, obviously, hindsight, it's easy to say that that was the wrong call, but even in the moment while I'm watching that game, I'm sitting there thinking, man, how can you not just get the points? Especially the first time. The Lions are still in control of the game. They still have the lead. And they don't get it either times on fourth down. And it changed the game entirely. 49ers were able to respond with scores on after both of those fourth down stops. And again, they tie the game going into the fourth quarter and then ultimately end up winning the football game. But just two massive, massive decisions by Dan Campbell to go for it in that second half. And it just completely shifted the momentum in San Francisco's favor. Another thing I want to say about this game, right? So you look at the 49ers, and obviously Brock Purdy has been the quarterback for the better part of the last two seasons for this team. I stupidly was still on the fence with Brock Purdy. He's been to two NFC championships in 2 seasons as a starter, right? So you would think by now I probably would have learned my lesson that, yeah, he's pretty elite. But I was still kind of sitting on the fence. You know, I really expected going into this game, this is where we're going to find out if Brock Purdy is real. Because we didn't really get a chance to in the NFC Championship last year. He got hurt so early in that game that he didn't really have a chance to prove it to us, right? But he goes into this game. He throws an interception in this game that is a really, really bad interception. His hand did get hit on the throw, but whether his hand got hit or not, he threw it into heavy coverage, and it would have been intercepted even if his hand doesn't get hit on that. And at that point, I'm starting to think, and I'm sure a lot of other people started to think, oh, well, here we go. Here's Brock Purdy. This is what you got. You got a guy that maybe can get you, fairly far, that's got a lot of talent around him, but when the moment's big, he's not going to do it, right? But man, oh man, did he prove me wrong. He went out in the second half and played basically a perfect game in the second half. He finishes the game 20 of 31 for 267 and a touchdown. Also, obviously had that interception. But he made a few huge runs down the stretch in that game. He had some plays on scrambles. He finished with 48 rushing yards on 5 carries. And the only reason he didn't get over that was obviously the yards on the knee that he took after the game. Late in the game, I apologize. But Brock Purdy 100% proved to me and should have proved, I would hope at this point to everybody, that he is 100% legitimate and a player that can get you to a Super Bowl and possibly win you a Super Bowl. He is that talented. He does have a tremendous amount of talent around him, of course. But you still have to go out and make the throws that he makes and run around in the pocket and scramble around like he did in that game against Detroit. Obviously, Detroit not a great defense. You know, all year long, that's where their struggles was on the defensive side of the ball. But Brock Purdy goes out in that second half especially and just controls that game and gets the 49ers to a Super Bowl. And there is no question about it that Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback in this league. And I tell you what, the 49ers better enjoy this while they can, while he is still on a rookie contract where he's making about $800,000 is all, compared to other top quarterbacks in the league that are making, $40 million plus. Because when that man is a free agent and when his first rookie deal expires, he is going to get probably record money. The way that the quarterback market is trending, Brock Purdy is going to get a massive payday. The 49ers better enjoy this while they can. But again, the stage is set for Super Bowl 58. We're going to have a rematch of Super Bowl 54. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers from Las Vegas 2 weeks from now. Obviously, they get the bye week in between, which is great for both teams to be able to rest and recover. Guys are obviously banged up. It's late in the season. It's going to be an awesome Super Bowl. I'm extremely excited for this matchup. Well, let's go ahead and do this now, guys. As you can see along the bottom there, there is a phone number that you can call or text. We do have a comment here before we get to that, though. Jennifer says, Kansas City is the underdog, but I predict they win. Just my opinion. Yeah, Kansas City right now, surprisingly, they are the betting underdog. It is right now, I think the line has moved to 1. Like I said, I think it opened up at 2.5 in favor of the San Francisco 49ers, but it has moved to 1. I agree with you, Jennifer. I do think that Patrick Mahomes is the best player on the planet and that he is going to be the deciding factor that gives the Chiefs another Super Bowl. But I do expect it to be a very competitive, tight game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think that this should be a very, very competitive game. Thanks for the comment. I appreciate that. But let's do this. If anybody wants to do so, you can call or text the show at the number down on the ticker at the bottom there. If you can't see that, it is 980-202-0785. And we can get right to the phone lines. Again, you can call or text, whatever you are most comfortable with, but we'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you here on the Big CeeJ Sports Podcast. But again, you can call or text 980-202-0785. Whether you want to talk about anything that we have covered in this 20 minutes so far or anything else that we have not touched on, we definitely can do so. I'm going to go ahead and switch my view here over to the calls. And there we go. Again, 980-202-0785, the number. You can call or text the show. And I would be more than happy to discuss anything that you guys want to on this fine Monday evening. One thing I did kind of want to touch on still, kind of while we're waiting on any calls or texts, is, again, Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, man. I love Dan Campbell. I really do. He's so easy to root for. But there's a difference between being aggressive and reckless, and he flirts with it a lot. And unfortunately, when you're a coach of a team that is they're 1 win away from the Super Bowl, you cannot make the reckless decisions that he did in that game. You just can't. And it was really, really unfortunate to see, how much those two decisions to go for it on fourth down affected that ball game. Again, you guys, appreciate anybody that has tuned in live or is watching this on repeat. If you have not done so, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there. Follow the page on Facebook or on Twitch as well, wherever you are watching. We are on all three platforms live, so please make sure to do that for me if you have not done so already. We'll probably give this about maybe 5-10 minutes, depending on the response. Austin says, while we're waiting on here, Austin says, at the same time, though, that is what got them there in the first place. You can't just abandon your philosophy like that. I will completely agree with that. That is very correct. Looking at the way that the Lions played all season, they went for it and converted on the most fourth downs out of anybody in the entire NFL. That's what they do. And as unfortunate as it was to see them do, what they did and obviously end up losing the game probably because of it, I do agree with that. That is what got them there. He is a guy that's going to gamble, and he is a guy that's going to be uber aggressive. Unfortunately, these came back to bite them in this game. We do have a text here. It says, I like DC's decision for the most part. I think the Lions need a new jugs machine with all those dropped opportunities. Completely agree. They definitely did have some struggles. I know there was one as well from Jameson Williams, who probably should have had a touchdown in that game that he wasn't able to get to. That one was pretty sad to see. The other part of this says, okay, here we go. The other part of this says, how screwed are the Panthers? So let's talk about the Panthers for a second. Now, appreciate the message and the participation there. So let's talk about the Panthers for a second here. The Carolina Panthers, right, should be picking first in the draft for the second time in a row. But if you remember back last season, they trade DJ Moore and this year's first-round pick to the Chicago Bears in exchange for last year's pick so that they could pick Bryce Young first overall. At the time, you're thinking, wow, that's obviously a very aggressive trade. You get rid of your best weapon, but you're going to get your quarterback. You get a guy like Frank Reich, who in his career has been a great offensive mind, a guy that's been able to work with quarterbacks like, Andrew Luck, for example, and has had great success doing so. Unfortunately for the Panthers, this year was a total train wreck. Frank Reich was a shell of himself, was not good play calling. The Panthers have a terrible offensive line that made anything Bryce Young tried to do look bad. It was just a very, very sad year for the Carolina Panthers. And now they don't have a first-round pick. So instead of being able to pick first overall and maybe get a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. or maybe trade back a little bit and still be able to get somebody that you'd like, you can't do that now. You have to wait until the second round comes around in this draft. And you're going to be picking at the first part of the second round, but it's not the same. I will say this. I do like the hire of Canales. He's proven to be a quarterback whisperer. He's worked with guys like, obviously, Baker Mayfield had an awesome season with Tampa this last year. He's worked with guys like Russell Wilson in Seattle. I think that he's got a very good shot to come in and improve things here in Carolina, which obviously it can't get much worse than it was last year or that it is right now as we are speaking. But I do think that they are obviously in a very tough spot. Not having a first-round pick after you have such a terrible season is pretty devastating. But they've got a lot of cap space. They've got a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. That defense was really, really good. Really, really good. And I will say that as long as Canales comes in and can be what he has been in his other stops in his NFL journey, I think that the Panthers are going to be okay. I'm still on the train that I think Bryce Young is the quarterback of the future for this team and is a guy that can be very, very good in this league. I was able to go see the Panthers play in person. Again, shout out Zane Anderson. I love you, bro. Thank you so much for the tickets. The game was amazing. It was awesome to be able to see you play in person. But to be able to see the Panthers play in person, I got to see two awesome young quarterbacks. Jordan Love is the real deal for the Packers, but Bryce Young made some awesome plays in that game. He was fantastic, and he was darn near close to getting them in position to win that game if they don't throw a pass into the middle of the field and run out of time. Obviously, not being able to stop the clock. So I think Bryce Young showed me more than enough to say that he absolutely is the guy, but they're going to have to get an offensive line. They're going to have to get an offensive line. 100%. That should be priority number one. Priority number two needs to be you probably are going to have to cut or trade Miles Sanders. You gave him 4 years and $24 million, and he came in and was absolute garbage this year. Why we're still paying running backs that much money in today's NFL is kind of crazy to me. But you're going to have to get more weapons around Bryce Young. I love Adam Thielen. He's a cool, he's had a great, cool story to get to where he is in the NFL and kind of be the productive guy that he has been. And he was obviously Bryce Young's go-to last year. But if your go-to receiver is a 33, I think, year old Adam Thielen, that's probably not going to win you a lot of football games. And I think that's why trading DJ Moore was so devastating for a lot of Panthers fans. I think a lot of them were like, we're obviously excited we get the first pick, but we get rid of DJ Moore. And I think we saw that last season. Fibo also says the Packers game was by far the best of our season, meaning the Panthers. Gave me a little false hope. Yeah, no, absolutely. That Packers game was great. And I mean, if you look at what the Packers did in the playoffs, obviously, it probably should make you feel even better. But the Panthers are probably, going to have a tough year again next year. But I do like the direction that they're heading. I do like the hire of Canales. They just definitely need to shore up the offensive line and get more weapons for Bryce Young and continue to do what they did defensively this year. Again, so much talent on the defensive side of the ball, man. They are in great hands on the defensive side of the ball. Thanks so much for the questions and the comments, guys. I really appreciate it. That's why one of the things I love about doing this is all the participation that I get from you guys in the comments section. I'm hoping at some point going forward we can do a phone call on this. I think that would be a lot of fun too. So definitely make sure to use that feature anytime you watch the show. Even when we're not doing the show as well, if there's anything that you guys want to talk about on the show, or if you guys know of anybody at any level of sports, whether it's a coach, whether it's a player that would maybe want to come on the show, definitely feel free to use that number. You can call or text that 980-202-0785 number, and that will come right to me. It's a Google Voice number, so it's not like an actual phone number, but it does work for me to be able to receive calls and texts too for the function that we're using it now. And obviously, again, if you guys have anything you want to talk about on the show or any potential guests that you think may be interested in coming on the show, please let me know. I'm hoping going forward, now that we are in the off season for most people in the NFL, I hopefully will be able to get some guests on the show that are no longer playing right now because it is the off season. I'm hoping to maybe have a former member of one of the teams being represented in the Super Bowl that we may be able to have on kind of for our Super Bowl show to maybe get a little bit of insight on how they're preparing for this game. What's it like being in the locker room with an Andy Reid led team heading to the Super Bowl? That is a potential thing that we may hopefully have on the horizon for you. But if we don't have any other additional questions or comments that you guys wanted to hit on today, we'll go ahead and end the show. This has been a very awesome half an hour. Again, if you have not done so, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate every single one of you. God bless. Love you guys. Have a great night. Enjoy your